Hey guys, Pastor Kevin here. I hope you're doing well. Wanted to give you all some quick announcements and then also a bit of a kind of a Bible study devotional thought since we don't have our small groups up and running online yet. We hope to have that in the next week or two, still working out some details and getting some things organized, but hope to have more information coming to you on online small groups so that we can meet that way while we're not able to meet together publicly. Uh, but we've been getting good engagement on our online services, so I appreciate y'all gathering together with us online and watching those. The word that we're getting is that the YouTube video is better quality than the Facebook Live video. We've been broadcasting to both, and we'll continue to broadcast to both. But the Facebook tends to freeze up just a little bit, but YouTube seems to be doing much smoother. So YouTube seems to be a better platform for watching the service. Also, if you have a smart TV or a TV that will connect to a smart device, then you can actually get YouTube on your TV, and that way you'd be able to see this service on your television, which is probably larger than your computer screen. So that's a good piece of advice for that. Also, I've seen that a number of y'all have been engaging with the online giving system, so we appreciate that. You can find that link on our website, which is thebridgeclover.com. Over on the left-hand side, there's a link for online giving, so you can give online either through a checking account or a credit card or debit card via that link over to the left. Also, if you're not comfortable with online giving, or if you just rather give your tithe through a check, then you can send that to our P.O. Box, which is P.O. Box 1204, Clover, South Carolina 29710. This next week in worship, we are going to be observing communion together. As we gather together online, we're going to observe communion. So communion is communal. It's something that we do together. So would ask that you would gather with your family for this. If there is a family that you're just already in contact with through the week, somebody that you could gather with that is not going to violate kind of the social distancing CDC recommendations, then you could gather together with them. But we'd ask that you gather together with us for communion this week, which we'll do during our worship service, and just set aside some bread and some juice, preferably grape juice, but whatever juice you have on hand. And that way, when we do communion in our worship service, I'll lead us all through that, and you can partake of communion with us as we do that online. So today I wanted to do a quick look at a passage that speaks to how we should live in our community as Christians today. And this passage is around a famous verse, kind of a coffee cup verse that gets taken out of context a lot of times. It's right around Jeremiah 29:11, which is the passage, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans for welfare and not for evil, to give you a future and a hope." And we take that verse out of context a bunch because we don't know the story of what's going on in Jeremiah 29:11. And lots of times when we read that verse, the I that we place in that verse, the I that knows the plans, is us rather than God. And so we think of it in terms of, I know the plans that I have for me, and so God's going to give me those plans. The actual context of this verse, this passage, is quite different. So if you don't know the story of what's going on in Jeremiah 29, of course, God had established his people Israel. He'd given them the promised land. He'd given them the law, the scripture. He'd given them the temple, and he promised them that if they would be obedient to the law, if they would follow after him rather than after idols, if they would be his people, then he would bless them, that he would provide for them, that he would bless them above all the other nations. But of course, Israel failed to do that really at every turn. They were disobedient. That they did follow after idols. That even though God warned them for centuries and centuries that bad things were going to occur if they continued in this, they continued to chase after other gods. They continued to be disobedient. And so finally, Israel is taken into exile, which actually happens over a period of time, that there are different groups that are taken into exile, but in the last kind of major group that's left, Babylon had gone so far as to attack Jerusalem and sack the temple. So this isn't when the temple is destroyed, but they had gone in and taken a lot of the holy items out of the temple and brought them back to Babylon. And so the people, they're in exile, they're away from their homes, they're in a place they've never been before, and of course they are distraught. They are wondering, when is this going to be over? And so there is a prophet that comes along, and we don't know a lot about him other than this prophecy that he makes. His name is Hananiah, and he begins making a prophecy, and he tells everybody, don't worry. In 2 years, everything's going to be fine. We've been through a hard time. We've been through some bad stuff, but in 2 years, we'll be back in the land. All the holy items will be back in the temple. Don't worry about it. 2 more years, and we're golden. God's going to take care of all this. But the problem with this prophecy is it wasn't from God. God hadn't told him this. We don't know why Hananiah is doing this, if he's doing it from a genuine motive or if he's doing it for selfish gain. But this prophecy wasn't from God. And so Jeremiah, the prophet, the legitimate prophet, comes and says, no, it's not going to be 2 years. It's going to actually be 70 years. It's going to be 70 years that we're going to be in Babylon. And so we're going to have to settle down here. We're going to have to make our home here. And that's when the verse that we find famous comes. It's, I know the plans I have for you, God says. It's not that you know the plans that I have for you. It's that I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. And it's plans for your welfare. It's not for evil. It's to give you future and a hope. And so God is telling the people, look, it's not going to turn out the way that you want. It's not going to be 2 years in your home. It's going to be 70 years. You're going to live your life in this place that you've never been. And then it's going to be your children or your children's children that are going to go back home. It's going to be then it's done. But it's I that know the plans I have for you. So in the midst of this, God gives them instructions for how they are to live their life in this foreign place, given that they're not going to be going back home, given that it's going to be 70 years. So for the adults, they're going to die here. They're going to die in this place that they've never known. And so Jeremiah 29, verse 4, it says this. It says, thus says the Lord of hosts, the God of Israel, to all the exiles whom I've sent into exile from Jerusalem to Babylon, build houses and live in them. Plant gardens and eat their produce. Take wives and have sons and daughters. Take wives for your sons and give your daughters in marriage, that they may bear sons and daughters. Multiply there and do not decrease, but seek the welfare of the city where I sent you into exile, and pray to the Lord on its behalf, for in its welfare you will find your welfare. And so God tells them, look, you're going to be there for a while, so build houses and live in them, because you're going to be there for 70 years, and get married if you're not married, and have sons and daughters, and give your sons and daughters in marriage, because you're going to be there for a while. But then the verse 7 is the one I want to focus on. God tells them, seek the welfare of the city, to pray to the Lord on its behalf, that in the welfare of the city you find your welfare. And so that's the principle that I want us to think about today in our kind of devotional thought moment, that we very much are like the people here, the people in this story, not that we've been taken from our homes, not that we've been taken from the place that we know, but that we are not in our ultimate home. That we, as the people of Christ, our ultimate citizenship is in heaven. Our ultimate residency is with him, not in this place that we are now. But we're going to be here for all of our life. We're going to be here until Christ comes back, or until we die, that we're going to be here for our entire life. And so we should seek the welfare of our city. We should pray to God for the welfare of our city, just like God has instructed these people in Jeremiah chapter 29. And so in this moment we're experiencing crisis, remember to look around for places that are hurting in our city. Remember to look around for places that we can be of benefit to in our city. And so that includes a lot of things. That includes looking out for our neighbors. If we have neighbors that have special needs in this crisis, if we have elderly neighbors that don't have anyone to check in on them, or who might need somebody just to go shopping for them so that they're not exposed to other people. If we've got neighbors with different needs, looking out for the welfare of our city might be looking out for them and being good neighbors to them. It probably includes considering local businesses. A lot of the local businesses are going to be hit hard as the economy turns down, as people have to stay home. So, as you're able, try to bless those businesses. If you can afford to go and get takeout food from a local restaurant, a lot of those places are hurting right now. So, it is good for our city that they are there. It is good for us that they are there. Let's be a blessing to them. Let's do that now, and let's remember them as things turn back to normal. But I think the instruction that we'd have in this passage for us today is that let's look out for those around us. Let's be God's people right here today. God has put us here on purpose in this time, that we would be a blessing to those around us because He's been a blessing to us. That as God has loved us, as God has been merciful to us, as God has been generous to us, as God has been so very forgiving to us, that we should do all of those things for the people around us. We should do all those things in and for our city, where God has placed us today. So, guys, I look forward to seeing you and worshiping with you on Sunday. And even if we can't gather together publicly, that we can still gather together online. And very much blessed to have that technology today. Hope y'all are doing well. Please let us know if we can do anything for you. And I'm thinking of y'all and praying for y'all. And just let me know if I can do anything else for you. Thank you.